Hello, awesomes. I'm back. Figured since I was up anyway, making videos, thought we'd discuss a little bit more about Project 3. We touched on the methods that lead into results. So I thought I might talk a little bit more about results and how that leads into the discussion and then into your, ultimately to your recommendations. So I thought I'd give you a little bit more information about that. So I'm going to minimize myself here. All right, so here's the template that I sent you. Just by way of review from last video, the methods are what you did, how you obtained the data that you obtained, and kind of what you did with the data. I went to X number of websites of these with these names, collected X number of customer reviews or customer complaints, and any other processes or processes that you had that helped you get your data pool. And then part of your method is what you did with those to then get results. All right, so it's kind of like there's a two-step process there. Sorry, my computer keeps falling. So it's everything that you did, collecting data and then kind of organizing that data, okay, to give you basically your data sets, because then you're going to say, okay, after we did all that, here are the results, right? The results showed, right? The results are going to demonstrate, right? So now we're in results, okay? And so present a synopsis of the results followed by an explanation of key findings. This is one way to go about it. As I mentioned in the previous video, maybe a preferred way, if you will, or how I do it anyway. For me, this helps me stay on track. Present a result and then explain it. All right, so you've set up all the methods. You've said to yourself, you've told your audience, this is how we got the data. This is what we did with the data to get to this point, right? So now we can say 65% of respondents said X, Y, or Z, and then explain why that's significant, why it matters. Go into a little bit more detail about what those results mean. And then here too, this is where you can kind of quote a couple of times to kind of you want to give your audience some sort of an idea of what the nature of those complaints were and how you are kind of thinking about those as why they mean this one thing or the other, right? Why do they qualify as a quality issue, a service issue, a management issue, etc. All right, then you will segue from results into the discussion. So what does all that mean, right? What's the significance, right? In light of everything that you've got going on here, the discussion always connects the introduction by way of the research questions or your hypothesis, right? So in our particular case, our research question was what's going on or what's up with this at this particular place, right? What seems to be a particular problem that we decided to look into based on these results that we got. So you can go through these right here. More importantly to me, I think overall, what do the results mean and kind of how are you interpreting those results, to me, sound more interesting when it comes to your overall discussion. Okay. All right, so let's review this again so we kind of get this in order, so to speak. Methods. Here's what we did to collect the data and what we did with the data. And that once we were done with that data gave us these results, right? Results, okay? So here we go, you present the result and then kind of explain what that results mean, okay? And then you kind of end with an overall synopsis. So your results section, they're not going to be super long. Maybe the longer of the three methods discussion or methods results discussion, now we're going to really get into the details of why it's significant. And this is going to be kind of why they should care, right? So this is what do the results mean, not just the results themselves, but now we're talking about what they mean. How is your team interpreting the results? We collected this data. This is how we collected this data. This is what we did with the data that then yielded us these results. That's your next section. And these results, here are 45% of the people said blah, blah, blah. Here's kind of a sample of that. And that's kind of like your explanation, right? Here's the other big result we've got from that. 48% said blah, blah, blah. Here's kind of some examples of what that means, and then kind of a summary of the results showed. Okay. Now this is where we can kind of really, this is where we interpret those results and kind of really kind of talk about what those mean. And then this is where I kind of think we tie it back to, as this says here, it's the discussion helps us think about, maybe when we think about, right here, the discussion leads us back to maybe your research questions or hypotheses that you posed in the beginning. Well, for us, it's going to be, this is the problem or problems that we mentioned, not knowing the executive summary and the introduction, segueing into why X, Y, and Z company should care about these results, why they matter, why they're significant, and explain those. Okay. Then leads us into the recommendation. Now, your research that you've done, you've gone maybe to Google Scholar, maybe you've gone to some of the trade publications or journals, or you found a trade magazine, or an industry publication or a trade pub or whatever you found, where they're talking about some recommendations, or they're talking about different solutions, or maybe you've taken several of those solutions and kind of maybe combined them into one of your own. This will be where these come into play, right? And then it says each option. It's not really each option. You're going to have, typically, you'll have one. I don't think you'll have more than one. A cohesive, comprehensive view of the idea, information, how it answers the problem that you talked about earlier in the beginning, specific details, and justification as to why this is open and why this would work, and then kind of like give them a kind of a snapshot of what this kind of looks like. How is it put into action, right? And then your overall conclusion is, this is why ultimately this is what it's going to kind of like do in the future. It's kind of like the so what question, right? So we found these things out. Here were our methods. Here were the results. We discussed why those results, what those results mean to the overall business. Here's the recommendation, and by implementing that recommendation, tie it back into, now you can maybe think about tying it back into maybe like their overall mission statement, right? Remember XYZ company, you are interested in presenting blah, 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 or accomplishing this one thing, or XYZ company, you've had trouble with maybe public relations or a PR issue, and this is a great way to get yourself back on track and blah, blah, blah. Something along those lines, right? So what? Why is this overall? Why should we implement this? Why should we care? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And that's how those kind of all converge. And then, of course, you'll list your references in APA style. Okay. All right. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit more to help you think about Project 3, what the different sections mean, kind of how they flow together in a way. There's like little distinctions, methods. Don't quite give the results yet when you're talking about what you're doing. And then when the results, just give the results and an explanation, but not really discuss them. Then in the discussion section, you discuss them, kind of borderline why they're important. Then once you leave that section and you get to your recommendation, now we're talking about very specifically why this one thing should be implemented. Then with the implementation of that one thing in your conclusion, now we're talking about why all those wrapped together matter to the company, to the business, to the whatever. Okay, it's really kind of think about these distinct sections, and it's really hard not to let them overlap. It's hard. Don't talk about results yet when you're given the methods. Don't discuss the results yet when you're just talking about the results, right? Don't discuss the recommendation while you're just discussing the results and what they are, et cetera, et cetera. All right, that'll be generally the most challenging part. So just keep that in mind. And of course, when I look at your drafts over the next week or 6, 7, 8 days, whenever you guys turn them in, or by next Sunday, when I take a look at them, I'll try to help as much as I possibly can to split those sections out. So let me know if you have any other further questions. You guys have a most wonderful week. Please let me know if there's more than I can do for you. And again, thank you for your patience this past week. Feeling much better. Thank you.